Notice a few things. We have a JDO user, and in the HR system, we call it birth_date with the value. Notice that when we go ahead and we create the attribute and the class, we're going to call it birth date. Okay? So the default schema in eDirectory does not handle birth date. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and create a new attribute and assign it to a new auxiliary class. But we're not going to call it the same name. We're going to call it birth date instead of birth_date. And basically this is kind of summing up what we're doing here. So we have a business requirement that wants the Identity Vault to store birth date value so it can be replicated to other systems. So that's the overall goal. And like I mentioned, does eDirectory schema by default have a place to store birth date? So eDirectory's default schema does not. So we will need to extend eDirectory schema to handle this additional attribute. So you're working with Designer and you're using IA Manager to go in and extend the schema. So how do we get those updates into Designer? Okay, so we can get those in. So what you do is you come into Designer, you highlight your Identity Vault, and you right-click, you choose Live, you choose Schema, and then you choose Import. You go and look for the class that you just added with the attributes. So we're adding the ID Vault class with the birth date attribute, and then you select Import. Once you've done that, now you've enabled your Designer, which doesn't get automatic updates. So you have to get that information down. Once you do that, then you can go in and now use those classes and attributes. Then you're going to come in, and step 3 is you're going to come into your schema mapping rule. You're going to hit refresh application schema, because this is going to go out there and make sure it has the latest schema in PeopleSoft. The next important piece here is that you're going to go in and choose Add Identity Vault Attributes. So you're going to come in here, which is your Identity Vault Attributes, and you're going to choose that as a down. Make sure you choose the second option. And the key here is you have to make sure that you choose all auxiliary classes. Because remember, we didn't assign birth date to the user class. We're going to assign birth date to an auxiliary class of our choosing, which is called the Identity Vault. So you have to come in and actually go in and choose all auxiliary classes to be able to see that birth date attribute, because it's not stored underneath the user class. Once we have that, we go over to the application side and then we map it to birth date. So now we have birth date on the Identity Vault side mapped to birth date on the application side.